What's up, boxing fans? This is TBE Boxing back at you again. Today's topic: will Top Rank or PBC be first to come up with the $20 million for Crawford or Spence to fight Manny Pacquiao? Let's chop it up and see what it's all about.
Got the money for minutes, pretty bitch, gotta show me titties. This is the life that I chose, huh? On the block with the pole, huh? This is the life that I chose, huh? On the block with the pole, huh? That life you for riches, huh? That life you for riches, huh? Pretty bitch, show me titties, huh? And I got the glazzy run up on me, I'ma make you get it. I'ma make you get it.
Okay, boxing fans, let's talk some boxing today. So, it seems like Manny Pacquiao is still showing some interest in the fight with Terence Crawford, and he's also showing interest in a fight with Errol Spence. Okay, so this is what we have been hearing in the news so far in regards to a fight between either Spence and Manny or Crawford and Manny for 2021. So the question is going to be, we know that, who is he going to actually fight for 2021? I mean, right now, he's talking about fighting Connor Mcgregor first for 2021 if that fight could be made. So if that fight can be made, more than likely, Manny Pacquiao is going to fight Conor McGregor first, and then in the second half of 2021, he's going to fight either Crawford or he's going to fight Spence. But as we all know, Manny Pacquiao wants a $20 million guarantee for that fight. Whoever he's going to fight, whether it's Spence or Crawford, Manny Pacquiao wants $20 million. Okay, as a guarantee. I mean, some reports are saying $15 to $20 million. So he might take $15 million to fight either guy. So the question is, that's out there, is who's gonna come up with $20 million first? The PBC, the Spence people, or Top Rank, the Crawford people? So that's basically what it comes down to. So it would seem that whoever comes up with the money first for Pacquiao will get that fight with Pacquiao in 2021. Now it's conceivable that the fight with McGregor might not happen. I mean, although from what we're hearing, Manny Pacquiao really wants that fight. He really wants to be in there with a UFC guy, and I don't blame him, because that's, at the end of the day, that's a big money fight. He's probably going to make $50 million, maybe even more, for that fight if that fight was to happen. Okay, but if that fight doesn't happen, then it will be even more urgent in terms of a Spence or a Crawford fight to happen. Okay, and so it would seem that whoever comes up with $20 million first, or the $15 million to make that fight, is the one that's going to get that fight with Manny Pacquiao. So it's not like Manny Pacquiao is going to fight Crawford for $20 million and he's going to fight Spence for less. Far from it. Okay, he's going to want $20 million no matter who he's fighting, whether it's Spence or whether it's Crawford. So, recently he has said that, Crawford, that Errol Spence is slow, is too slow, and that he can beat him. This is what Manny Pacquiao said. Okay, and so he's shown interest in that fight, as well as a interest in the Crawford fight. So I guess it's gonna be a race to see who can come up with that $20 million first to make this fight happen, whether it's PBC or whether it's gonna be Top Rank. Okay, and so that's where it seems to be that where things are right now in terms of that fight being made, whether with Crawford or whether with Spence. A lot of people out there, are talking about, as if the fight between Manny Pacquiao and Crawford can't happen, or it's not going to happen. But it remains to be seen. From what I'm hearing, even though previously Top Rank, specifically Bob Arum had said that he had blocked a fight with Manny Pacquiao and Terence Crawford because he thought that that's when Manny Pacquiao was with Top Rank, but Manny Pacquiao is not with Top Rank anymore, and I'm pretty sure, he had no option to block in a fight with Manny Pacquiao and Crawford if that was to happen, unless they can't come up with the money. But that happened, previous to the time where that was before Manny Pacquiao beat Keith Thurman, a prime Keith Thurman at that, to take the belt away from Thurman. So, the age factor for Manny Pacquiao didn't really come into play too much in that fight with Keith Thurman, and Manny Pacquiao was able to beat Keith Thurman, knocked him down, and take his title. So maybe after that, Bob Arum is thinking, well, hey, if he can beat Keith Thurman, then he can probably, do a fight with Terence Crawford, and that would be probably a lucrative fight. But Bob Arum has also said that the fight between Crawford and Pacquiao was actually close to being made, and that the only reason that fight never actually got made was the fact that there was the pandemic started, and so that kind of threw a monkey wrench into everything, and so the fight never happened. Now, whether or not that's true or not, we don't know. But if we're gonna take Bob Arum at his word, as a lot of people seem to want to be selective in taking Bob Arum at his word. They basically call Bob Arum a liar, okay? When he says anything, but when he says anything about Terence Crawford, he's the voice of truth. That's the LDBC people out there. They always call Bob Arum a liar when he's talking about, we even hear Errol Spence say Bob Arum is a liar. Bob Arum needs to stop lying. But when Bob Arum talks about Terence Crawford, Errol Spence take that as the gospel. Okay, and the LDBC does the same thing. So he's lying when he's talking about Errol Spence or anybody else, but he's telling the truth when he's talking about Terence Crawford. When it's something detrimental, when he's saying something detrimental about Terence Crawford, he's telling the truth. But when he's saying something detrimental about Errol Spence or somebody else, he's telling a lie. Okay, but that's how these guys in the LDBC do it. That's how they talk, running narrative, pushing narrative. But so at the end of the day, Bob Arum said the fight was close to being made, and the only thing that stopped that fight from happening was the pandemic. So it's conceivable that the fight could happen in 2021 if the money is there. From what I'm hearing, they're looking for investors to make the fight happen between Manny Pacquiao and Terence Crawford. So we're gonna see what happened with that. As for Errol Spence and that fight happening with Manny Pacquiao, it's no different for Errol Spence than it is for Crawford. They're gonna have to come up with $20 million to pay Manny Pacquiao for that fight to happen. He's not gonna fight Errol Spence for free or for less than what he's asking to fight Crawford. Okay, so they're gonna have to come up with that money as well. So again, it's gonna be who can come up with the money first that's gonna get that fight between with Manny Pacquiao, and basically that's where it is right now. Right now we see a lot of people out there trying to get a fight with Terence Crawford. We see Sean Porter recently. Keith Thurman came out and said he want to fight. And as a matter of fact, Bob Arum said, in Barbershop Conversation, that Keith Thurman has sent them some indication that he wants to fight Terence Crawford this year, 2021, and that from what Bob Arum saw and heard, it looks like Keith Thurman is being reasonable this time, as opposed to the last time when he was asking for $10 million. So the fact that Bob Arum is saying that Keith Thurman is making a reasonable offer looks like that fight could happen, very soon. Okay, and so we're gonna see how that plays out. Also, we hear Mikey Garcia talking about fighting Terence Crawford. Now that's another intriguing matchup. We know that Mikey Garcia brings his Mexican fans to the table. Okay, so a fight between him and Terence Crawford would be a big pay-per-view fight with with the Mexican fans coming, and with Crawford's fans. So that fight should be pretty interesting if it were to happen. I mean, I don't know how Mikey Garcia is going to look against Terence Crawford. I mean, he didn't look that good against Errol Spence, but the fight was somewhat successful in terms of the pay-per-view. That was the biggest money that Errol Spence has made in his career up to this point, was the fight against Mikey Garcia, and that was the highest pay-per-view fight so far. So a fight between Mikey Garcia and Crawford would be pretty interesting. I would probably get a lot of views vis-a-vis pay-per-view. So it looks like things are heating up. So we have Keith Thurman, we have Crawford, and we have Keith Thurman, we have Sean Porter, and we have we have Manny Pacquiao, as well as Mikey Garcia showing interest in fighting Crawford for 2021. So we're going to see which fight actually get made. As for Errol Spence, he could get the Manny Pacquiao fight. Manny Pacquiao has shown interest in fighting him, but again, they're going to have to come up with $20 million to make that fight happen. Okay, so we'll see if PBC is going to be able to come up with that money, and if they can come up with the money before Top Rank comes up with the money to make the fight happen. So again, whoever comes up with the money first is probably going to get that fight in 2021, and we'll see what happens. Because besides Manny Pacquiao, besides the fight with Manny Pacquiao, it doesn't seem that Errol Spence has many options. I mean, he has talked about, he has fought, who else is he going to fight besides Manny Pacquiao welterweight? He has fought Sean Porter already. He fought Mikey Garcia. He fought Carol Book. He fought Danny Garcia. And the only fight that did pretty decent pay-per-view wise was the Mikey Garcia fight. The rest of the fight didn't do that well at all, the pay-per-view. So in terms of money fights at the welterweight, Spence doesn't have many more options besides fighting Crawford. Crawford been chasing that fight for 3 years now, and Errol Spence has basically ducked Crawford the whole time and doesn't want to fight Crawford. And he also said he doesn't want to fight Keith Thurman. So his options, if he doesn't get the Manny Pacquiao fight, are basically limited at the welterweight right now. I mean, he's been talking about going up to fight, going up to middleweight to fight Canelo Alvarez, but that's all. From what I can see, that's all talk, because he hasn't actually called out Canelo Alvarez. He just said he can fight Canelo Alvarez anytime people start asking him about fighting Terence Crawford, and so he just mentions Alvarez's name basically just to stop people talking about him fighting Crawford, because he doesn't want to fight Crawford. He's been ducking Crawford for a good while now, and he's continuing to duck. So unless he fights Crawford or Pacquiao, there's not much options for Errol Spence right now at welterweight in terms of making a big money fight. I don't think he's going to fight Canelo at 160. Canelo has said that he has more, he's more focused on fighting at 168, and he wants to unify at 168. So he's not really interested in fighting Errol Spence, even though later on Eddie Reynoso, Canelo's trainer, came out and said that they wouldn't mind going down to 160 to fight Errol Spence. Now, ever since that's been said, we haven't heard anything from Errol Spence saying that, okay, he's gonna, accept that and actually fight Canelo. So we see that it was just a talking point. He's just running a narrative. He's not really interested in fighting Canelo, because if that was the case, he would immediately jump on that and say, okay, if you guys are willing to come to 160, then I'm willing to take the fight. But we don't see that happening. So it doesn't seem that Errol Spence have much options. I mean, he can fight Ugas or somebody like that, one of the young up-and-coming guys like Ennis or Boots Ennis or Virgil Ortiz or somebody like that. But I don't know if that's in the cards. So again, unless he fights Crawford or Pacquiao, in terms of big money, are you gonna do the rematch with Sean Porter? But that's probably won't make any. That fight didn't do that well in the pay-per-view, so that's not gonna be another big money fight for Errol Spence. So we'll see how it all plays out. But one thing we can see that with all these guys now deciding that they want to fight Terence Crawford, from the PBC side. Well, Mikey Garcia is actually a free agent, but Keith Thurman and Sean Porter is on the PBC side, and they're showing interest in fighting Terence Crawford. So we'll see what happens. I mean, it's looking interesting. Again, we're gonna see who if either Spence or Crawford is gonna fight Pacquiao. Again, their camp is gonna have to come up with the $20 million, whether it's the PBC comes up with it or Top Rank. We're gonna see how that plays out. So we're gonna keep an eye on what's going on, and and see what actually happens in 2021. But whatever happens, at this point, 2021 is looking pretty interesting in terms of Terence Crawford and the fights that it could be made. Okay, so that Keith Thurman fight looked like it might actually be possible and could actually happen soon. So yeah, that would be a very interesting fight, and a lot of people would be looking forward to seeing that. And that would be a good fight on pay-per-view for Terence Crawford, because Keith Thurman is a good pay-per-view draw, and all his pay-per-view fights have been successful so far. So again, we're gonna see what happens, whether these fights are gonna be made or not. It's still out there, but let's see what happens. That's all I have for right now. Make sure you are subscribed to the TBE channel. Okay. This is TBE Boxing. That's all I have for right now. I'm out.